Okay, NYXL playing against Spark. Let's have a look at this. All right, so Spark have gone for the teleport play forwards. They're using, all right, to begin with here, we have the Echo Reaper, but with the Anna Brig backline. So this is very much like a Mei Melee double bubble composition, but with this. That doesn't make any sense to me. You're playing a close range front line. The resources you're able to give to your Echo are pretty good, but the overall tempo of the composition doesn't make sense. Because Architect wants to play close range, fast tempo, and the rest of your team wants to hang back, wait for alt cycles, and what, just try and pocket shy or something? This doesn't make any sense to me.
Yes, indeed, both.
New York are just going to be able to get the point here, and Hangzhou are going to have to, what, wait for a nano to be built before they can push properly? Either that or they're just going to walk in and die to the poke. Spark don't have any way of closing the gap.
If Zen wasn't supposed to flank, they would have given him footsteps.
On the monkey, they have Shy on the Echo, but Na's going to be on that Zarya. He actually gets dominated
Yeah.
first, and you can see how difficult it is to jump
Well,
into the team, Vicky. Like, you're jumping into so many stuns.
Okay, this doesn't make sense.
And they're the two who's going to be sitting there shotgunning any large hitbox target in the face.
Echo Brig is okay, and this Reaper can follow up. No, it's terrible. This comp is terrible. Like, the thing is, while some compositions are usable in ranked play, when it comes to pro play, if you have a bad comp, you're just going to get comp diffed in fights like this. There's no way that these guys can close the gap effectively to fight against NYXL. They're playing, the tempo of their comp doesn't make sense. They don't have a Lucio to be able to close the distance properly. If they try and go for engages with the bubble, Gushui is just going to be alone because Architect can't get close either. And unless Shy just carries the team fight, they just auto lose with this comp. The only thing that they have is ult cycles. That's the great part about these compositions, right? So now that they're online, they do actually have some chances. But in that opening neutral, they just lose. So now it's about Gushui getting a really good engage. What a whip shot. Lovely whip shot from Friday. That ruins this whole push. Wait, was that Friday or was that Bianca? No, it was Friday, yeah. God, that's so nice. Friday's Mercy, when I was watching that, looked pretty tragic. Oh, well, Bianca gets caught there. It still made a lot of space for them across the point. And Gushui's going to have Primal here, too. So, yeah, even though that dive got completely denied, Gushui made enough space for the rest of them to cross the point, and NYXL didn't rotate properly to, like, take a high ground or anything after they had survived. Or try and take the mini room either. Okay, pushing back in. The Primal could be devastating here. Now that the ult cycle's online, the Sparks comp is able to do a lot more. Primal is going to be hard to do anything against. Supercharger, they should be trying to use the Primal here, I think. They just rally. Okay, Gushui with a late Primal once they actually try and commit to the point here. Oh my god, the Amp Matrix down as well. Jesus. A very, very nice idea from New York there. They were so ready for that to come in. Good luck doing that. Lordy. Yo, Ashiki, thank you for the 500 bits. Can we watch the Spark walkout if we didn't already? No, I didn't see it. I can try and rotate, not rotate. I can try and rewind back to it in a second.
A couple little reflips there. NYXL took the point from the Spark, and the Spark quickly took the point back. They didn't give them too much time. We're looking at almost final fight territory here. Graviton Surge is online.
So here's I guess the question. Is this meta behind or in front of North America? Have the Spark picked this because they knew what New York were coming out with, and so they've gone for a slower paced composition that can just get their ults online and try and cycle them effectively? Or are they both just behind? Would both of these comps just end up getting mowed down by a good Winston Lucio team? I think it's really quite difficult to play the Orisa comps into the Winston Lucio on this stage. There's a lot of opportunities for short-range engagements. You can get onto them really early before there's like narrow choke points all over the place as well. I don't think the immortality field would be enough to save you from a Moira Lucio version of the rush. So I think this is behind North America.
Defensive ult available for NYXL. Rally's nowhere really near there. Maybe they can create a space with this window.
And that's not the way you want to try to keep things here if you're trying to take the point.
That is a huge anti-nade. Spark playing in front of their home crowd must feel awesome for them as well. First homestand ever in China. So now in New York, I mean, Yakpung's gone over to... Yeah, okay, so as soon as they got their ult cycles online, New York couldn't do anything to try and break this. Let me go back to this initial team fight as well, because this subverted my expectations for this composition. I really did think that Spark would not be able to effectively fight against them here. They're going. Gushui is completely denied. The bubble was too late. Gets booped back again. And Jonak uses his Amp Matrix defensively as well, so they don't have that as a tool to be able to push back into the fight. Where is Feather in the midst of all of this? Why is Feather in the backlines? Wait, where is Feather? Where is Feather?
He still finds Bianca. That's big because Bernard actually demeched him right in time.
Where the fuck is Feather? He's fighting with Architect.
Down with the bubble. Now the Diva bomb coming in.
He's fighting with Architect.
The duplicate, he still finds Bianca. That's
okay. Don't know what the fuck Feather was doing there.
To make sure that Bianca would get out of that fight. Doesn't make a difference for Bianca though, because he would have been dead anyways, and it's Architect.
I think the Sparks comp though just straight up loses to the Winston Lucio version of this as well. I think New York misplayed that one fight that allowed Spark to get their ult cycling. So what, are they going to play this again here?
Let's go. Let's just punish their supports. Let's get some cooldowns out. No, they were very, very cognizant of just how much damage the NYXL can do and how much lockdown they have as well. Oh, there's Goosh.
Wow, absolutely annihilated that as well. But yeah, this is wow. Annihilated. They're so now NYXL are running Echo Reaper with the back brick. APAC playing some crazy shit.
Unfortunately, though, because he used it, he didn't have it for the grab. So
Echo Reaper with the back break and the Orisa as well.
Yakpung now trying to fight for this high ground, though. Going on to round 2, the NYXL need to do something, and this is exactly how you start that off. Finding IDK is big, but MCD has shut down Feather. NYXL still have more bodies here on the point.
It's so weird because both of these teams are playing Frankenstein compositions. There are very few natural synergies in both of their compositions. But I think Flora and Feather have made this change to try and punish Gushui.
They would have given him in your favor very quickly or go for the reset. It's very difficult to...
But again, we're going to see the Hangzhou Spark have opportunities to come back in with this nano engage. But the key here is for New York to create space, is to still back off away from Gushui's engagement and keep the point alive. Easier to do here than on University.
So they go in with the nano and dupe the Diva to try and force out some cooldowns and hopefully...
Yeah, they're going to go in with nano Gushui and Shy's duplicate.
I'm curious to see what they're going to try to engage with, but meanwhile, Florida...
So they're... Yeah, these Reapers are going for big flanks.
He could get Wraith and just Wraith right out of that situation.
Jonax used his Amp Matrix defensively. Friday already dead. He was... Okay, let me rewind. Oh my god. What's going on with their backline here? Why don't they try and... Okay, so the immortality field was forced early on. How did Gushui get such a good engagement there? He just jumped at them. He just jumped at them, and Bianca and Friday weren't anywhere near. I mean, he had a bubble and a nano boost, which I guess are the massive advantages of this composition.
What a strong player Gushui is. Now imagine when you have Shy duplicating the Diva, getting a Diva bomb and sending it.
NYXL getting run over, man.
Shy, he just got a quick 3K there, actually, being able to follow up from Gushui.
NYXL need to change their comp. I mean, this Orisa idea is not working for them. They're not mobile enough, so they're not being able to create distance when Gushue goes for his dives. They did a fairly decent job that first time on University, where Friday hit the whip shot, but outside of that, outside of the bubble being unable to block it, like if the bubble was earlier, that doesn't even work anyway. But if unless Friday can do that, New York need to be pulling backwards and trying to bait these engages out of the Spark. Flora is so weak. They have double Reaper. Double Reaper. How are you even getting close to them? You have no Lucio. I am so confused watching this game. I am so confused.
Unfortunately, just got snubbed. When you have Gushue 2 getting a 2K, you highlighted Gushue, and just he's had such a large impact for the Spark.
If you're playing Reaper, you either need a fast-paced composition that can close the gap so that he can play aggressively, or times that you run Reaper in the Orisa compositions are when you are going to get into places on the map where the other team is forced to hard engage into you. So say you're attacking and your Reaper's just going to sit on the payload and they have to come to the payload to fight you. And so you have like a Reaper Torbjorn or a Reaper McCree sat on the objective ready to fight them. And your Reaper's aiming to be like almost defensive, right? Even if you're on attack, your Reaper is just going to hold their ground as much as they can and try and fight them as they engage. Against this composition, though, they have a bubble onto Gushue, and Flora himself has been going on wide flanks to try and get into the backline against MCD and IDK. And then in that fight, they duplicated a Reaper as well. So they had double Reaper without any way of initiating, and the Hangzhou Spark were just able to split them up with a Primal. And so the Reaper's got no value, because you're just not... You're not attracting Hangzhou to make big dives onto you that you can stop. You also have no ability to do anything if Hangzhou just chill out. Then Hangzhou are not playing a fast-paced composition. They're playing a slow-paced comp. This is not Mario Lucio. Well, I gotta say, I'm confused as to how New York won this. Very confused. There's Flora again on a flank. Instead of being there to defend the main body of his team, he's going for a flank in the middle of the fight to try and get value out of the Reaper. It just doesn't make any sense.
Wow, what a map to start us off. The Spark looking
I'm so confused. He did not have to trigger OT there. He was going on a wild flank. They have Bianca to be able to do that. I guess Bianca doesn't know whether he could remake, but... Oh, did he just teleport in there? Is that... Oh, he was... Oh, no. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. He was with them. So Flora was with them. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just talking shit. He was worried that Bianca wouldn't be able to retouch the point. So he just went for a crazy teleport to the back, yeah. My apologies.
Luckily, he has IDK right there. MCD taking
what an odd map. What an unusual game. I don't even really know what the game plan is for New York. I think New York must have come out expecting Hangzhou to play the fast-paced comp or maybe expecting them to play the Orisa mirror, but they couldn't adapt when they went over to this. I think, though, that there are many ways that New York's composition could have beaten Hangzhou's. They should have won all the... Well, they did win both of the neutral... No, they didn't win this neutral engagement. No, they did. They won both of the neutral fights at the beginning. They just couldn't hold on when Spark got their ults online. Because you're giving Spark too much time. I suppose that is quite interesting. I wonder if teams will think about... the problem is that if you're trying to play a Lucio... Moira composition, you have to swap 3 of your players in order to get to this comp. It does massively change the tempo, but if you weren't playing it in the initial fight, probably not worthwhile swapping over to it. And also, I don't think that it would. I mean, wouldn't it? Like, if you can nano boost engage, why wouldn't it work? I guess the only problem is getting value out of Architect, out of the Reaper. But as long as you have good teleports, you should be fine once ults are online. Anyway, let's move on. I don't think Orisa on control is very good. I think both of these teams are behind the times when it comes to... Like, I think both of those compositions would end up losing to Mario Lucio comps. Alright, so Hangzhou are going to run defensive Mei melee meta, essentially, except with the Reaper Echo. APAC observers are
they want to play the same kind of way.
loving this FOV change a bit too much. So New York, you're running Orisa Zarya here. Why would you run Orisa Zarya instead of Orisa Diva? I don't know. I just don't get it. New York are going to win, right? Because they end up winning this fucking game, but I don't understand how. Go in Rome, thank you for the tier 2, 18 months, thank you. Oh, and Uber Chain, thank you for the 44 months as well. Kai called me a dribbler when we were playing Valheim, and I kept walking into the fire to get food. It made me realize we are more alike than I realized in terms of obfuscating anomaly behavior. I hate it. Yeah, well, there you go. Why? Where's the Zarya coming from here? If you're gonna run the Zarya as like protection, I guess, for the rest of your team, as some kind of peel or whatever against Gushui, then why not run a McCree that can actually take advantage of that and give you some long range options? By the way, they bubble Flora while he's teleporting, like before he's even teleported. So he arrives with like the shreds of a Zarya bubble and just instantly has to Wraith form. What is going on? Gushui just melts to a halt. Oh, not even a halt. Oh, I guess he didn't really get halted though. He just took too much damage and Feather finished him off. That wasn't even a focusing beam either. That's just a mistake from Gushui. But this composition is so slow paced. It loses neutral fights. You have to slow down the tempo enough for your ults to come online. This is so weird. It's like they're playing a different game in APAC.
Yeah, and Architect right there, I mean, it's right there too. Gushui is coming back. This is what they wanted, but
oh, and they don't touch as well. Oh my lord.
They wanted to wait for Gushui to engage, but they took way too long. And now that Yakong has found Architect, this is going to put a dent to the NY, or rather, the Spark's plans, because now they're dropping...
I'm not criticizing the teleport focus. I'm criticizing the fact that they Zarya bubble him so early to the point where he just instantly has to Wraith. You could create way more space if you give him a proper Zarya bubble there. Okay, so now Spark has some ultimates. They can try and expend them, but New York can just bait them out here. This is what we've seen over in North America as well, is that the win conditions for these Orisa attacks on Anubis are that you have to bait bad engages out of the defenders if they're running a Winston, you know, the non-mirror matchup. So if New York go forwards and try and bait an engagement out of Gushui and catch him with an Amp Matrix, for example, and if they can force out Nano and Primal and then re-push afterwards, okay, they're just going to go for a straight push in. How much charge does Bianca have? He can't have much, surely. They're going for an aggressive Amp Matrix. Again, the bubble is so early. Why is the bubble so incredibly early? Is it to stop a sleep dart coming through or something? There must be a reason that he's getting bubbled before he even teleports. He's not teleporting out of range. At least he wasn't the first time. There must be a reason why they're going for that premature bubble, but I don't know what it is. Solo Grav to go for Flora. And he just Wraith forms. Okay.
This is the opportunity now for the NYXL to try to take this point as quickly as possible. They're nearly there for the first point. IDK is gone and he's not in this fight.
Oh, they're not going to get a single tick out of this. Wait, Gushui jumps off the point. They get the pick.
He couldn't even escape
Oh no, they're diving the back line.
You can see he's already about to round up to another rally.
Wow, Spark are all over the place here.
Right there, here, Jaws, to try to take this whole point, and look at this time bank, 3 minutes and nearly 50
They went
seconds.
hardcore to try and finish off Friday there underneath in the Mega Room area. And they just lost all of their point presence, all ability to stall for respawners, and they didn't even get the pick. What the fuck is going on here? What is this graph?
From that death loss, see him exactly what he wants. Look how spread out they're playing, but it doesn't matter. They grab Flora.
I mean, it is kind of a sicko immortality field. But how does Flora not die before then?
We're gonna see Flora teleport. He has the bubble on him too, just in case to protect him. He has a death blossom, and the Spark know exactly what he wants. Look how
So they kill Architect.
they're playing, but it
He gets bionaded. He's in a grav. How is he not getting shot at by Shy and Bernard right now?
doesn't matter. They
One right click? I mean, they don't have a very large window of opportunity because the immortality field does come out pretty early on.
but it doesn't matter.
Oh, it does come out really early, actually, the immortality field.
They grab Flora, isolate him. And
Yeah, that's kind of a
he gets
sicko
hurt.
immortality from Jonak.
Architect goes down.
But the solo
Death
grab
blossom
on the
with a
Reaper
supercharge
just to
from Shy
begin with
losing that
is
duplicate can help turn this fight in
nonsense,
Spark's
man.
favor after losing Gushue.
I don't think they
Just
even
keep
use the
beating
immortality
down
field if they don't use the
NYXL.
grab
They're trying
either.
to take this point as quickly as possible.
IDK's in
They're
trouble.
nearly there for the first point. IDK's gone and he's not in the
I don't
fight
think
either.
Bernard
It's
dies if he
Bernard.
doesn't use
The
grab
Jays have a
either.
feather here, and Architect dies again. He couldn't even escape.
Ah, this is nonsense.
DK's gone down. They're just trickling onto the point now. If result, it might be good, but it doesn't look likely. He gets one.
So Hangzhou are going to be running this on attack here now.
Cancel the Death Blossom either, so
I think this composition is better on attack, but again, it's ult focused.
you up, Diva to bait through in defense, make
New York running a very North American meta comp
but that's not there. Architect pressing Q in
to
this
defend.
situation, I don't think would have made the difference maker because Bianca was
This composition, though, from New York, you do still have to respect the dive. Whether it's Gushue jumping in here with
They would have
a
given him
with a bubble, or whether it's
on their offense.
the Moira Lucio version of this composition as well. You can't just hold your ground completely because Flora is susceptible. Friday's a little susceptible as well.
Kind of juggle himself up onto this high ground over and
But they
over
need to
again.
generate nano boost before they can push here, which is a
65% of the way there already.
bit of a flaw because as soon as
And what we saw in Oasis,
Oh, Bernard is so
Flora on the
weak.
free. So even if he does jump in, he's going to get perma-stunned along with that break. But
Okay, Bianca D-maxed, but they trade for Gushue. Oh, they nano Bernard. This is Papige. This is Papige.
Look at the amount of energy that Bernard has, having so much damage coming out, and also MCD so consistent on stopping.
Instead of just waiting for Gushue to come off the respawn, they just nanoed Bernard and tried to push.
to help.
Oh, that is so impatient.
NYXL together, they're forced to disengage. You see Bianca trying to get into position to actually create some.
So
space
what
and
that does
make
is, it means that Gushue doesn't build up any primal charge, which is another crucial element to their ult cycling. It means that MCD has wasted his nano boost.
MCD there was pretty big. It just meant Spark couldn't just kind of rush them down, knowing that they lacked a tank.
And Gushue wasn't there to make any space for the rest of the team.
Front line now. It's
Flora
young
is in an
very,
odd
very
position
low.
here.
Shy
They need to
transforms
back
into
off
Diva.
here. They need to back off and give some space.
Shy, he gets booted out of the
Okay, they
build.
just back into the alleyway where only Shy can do damage to them.
Instead, Friday
And they can focus him down.
That's a threat.
Good boobs from Shy, though, pushing them back.
Quickly as possible. Spell success. Doesn't find anyone. Luckily, the
Little
boobs
flank
right
from
there
Feather.
for Feather. Yeah, Feather's right there too, bringing this fight
Immortality
close
field
quarters.
used
When
by
you're in the
Jonak as
cycle,
well
you
to try
are
and
just part
keep
of
them
the
all
race
alive in the
series
rally
that you
with a
don't
huge
wanna
amount of
get beaten up
sustain.
by. Bianca's found Bernard, and here comes a death blossom that
This is
Architect
still a
was
close
built.
fight. Gushue could
Feather's
still win
turn
this with
now
his
is he's
primal.
gonna get the death blossom himself. Gushue's in this
Or
primal.
maybe
He's
could have
got
done
free
if it was
so much
timed with
damage.
Architect.
The Spark were nearly there, but
This is
unfortunately,
just,
they only were able to get that one
chaos at this point. It could be anybody's.
Spark are playing, and that's the
It's
end
probably
of
eventually going to go the way of
Forces
Hangzhou,
Irish.
just
Look at those
via
movements
spawn
now,
advantage.
Josh, as they unleash Gushue
Nano
and
onto
Spark.
Gushue as well.
What can
Oh
they
my
do?
word, that
Nothing.
is
He gets
crazy
melted.
chain CC.
Oh, beautiful sleep.
Good sleep.
MCD puts down Flora. Can't
All of this shit is just on the fly right now, though. And New York are managing to stabilize. That's crazy. I did think that would go the way of the Spark, but Gushui got melted there.
Feather had used his Death Blossom in that side room, and no one was there. Maybe trying to cover some space, but that could have been crucial here for this potential last fight. We're gonna have Architect still hanging out to the high ground. NYXL, they're grouped together and grouped a lot more consistently in comparison.
So what does Spark do here? They have Shy's ultimate to try and make use of, but that's the only thing they have available. And Jonak has an Ant Matrix. They can use that defensively. They use it aggressively. If you're playing against a Moira Lucio comp here that can choose its timings much more effectively than the Hangzhou comp can, as New York start crossing the point here, you just dive the backline. Like, they're in such an exposed position right now. But Hangzhou's comp can't engage because they don't have tools to be able to do it.
Force out with field, you might just find the win. Bernard's already down though, and IDK's to follow too. The window's doing too much damage.
And the fact too here that you not only have to deal with the window, but you have Architect holding onto the high ground, and now they've isolated.
This really is a different game, man. It's a different game to what North America are playing.
30 seconds for 33%. It's going to be 10 seconds roughly.
The Spark aren't under the same amount of pressure because both of these compositions are slow. So it doesn't even really tell you anything about how good Spark is going to be when they play against Moira Lucio comps. Because both teams are being given a ton of time to set up their own win conditions, whereas the Moira Lucio comp doesn't really need... I say it doesn't really need ults to work with. In some sense, it needs the coalescence, but it's almost like an ability because you have it up every 50 seconds. It's like an ability on a really low cooldown, really long cooldown. I don't know what to say about that, really. The Spark made so many enormous errors, and I don't think their composition is the best that you can play on this map. But also, it should have been more effective on attack. They just really ruined their ult cycling. That team fight where they nano boosted Bernard instead of going for just waiting, they would have only had to wait 5 seconds for Gushui to come back off respawn. And they weren't under a lot of pressure. They're playing against an Arisicon with a McCree and a Reaper. It's not like they're being pushed heavily, so... Okay, Numbani. This should favor the Orisa comps. If Spark continue playing their main melee comps here, I don't know what to think, man.
But now we head over to Numbani, and this comp from the Spark very much favors Numbani. These high grounds are so easily accessible.
That's interesting that Jaws thinks that, because I think it's... I think it's definitely the opposite here. It's not so much that the Spark's composition is bad on the first point, but once you get to the payload portions, NYXL's composition is, I think, very stable. And also, if Spark mess up their ult cycle here, pushing point 8, like, their opening attack is probably not going to be as good from Spark. And then once they get ult cycling, if they mess up one of those pushes, they could just get full health here. So they really need that first ult push to work extremely well. A lot of pressure on Bernard to put his bubbles in the right place, or rather the right time on Gushui, because the chain CC is kind of enormous from NYXL's comp, which is what makes it so good, right? And you don't have that tempo that can really be a problem. You're playing very predictable tempo. There's a halt, just get destroyed. You simply cannot win neutral fights with that composition. So, alright. It's about getting the ult cycle. And because Gushui died there instead of feeding his damage to MCD, they still, a minute and 20 seconds in, don't have their first ultimate. If you're playing Moira Lucio comps, you'd be busting out of there with a coalescence. Fucking 30 seconds ago. But alright. Nano can definitely come up here and crack this open. They have Nano Boost engaged for Gushui, and they have Shy's duplicate, so... Is Shy set up for some kind of flank? No, he's not. Oh, MCD's going for a bio nade as well, maybe? NYXL have read this. Where is Shy? Okay, Shy's in main as well with them. They know what's coming up here. It's on Jonak to get this Ant Matrix working. Like I said previously. Wait, what? Did Architect just try and teleport in? It's fucking impossible to tell without the replay. Yeah. Oh, Architect was on a flank. Oh, Architect is underneath and he teleports up. So Architect goes from here and he teleports to this back staircase over here, straight into Flora, and he just gets flashbanged and killed. And in the meantime, because this comp from Spark is so slow, it gives Jonak time to generate his amp matrix, and his amp matrix goes down here, and it essentially is just a deterrent to Gushui's push, right? Everybody backs off behind the amp matrix, tries to kill Gushui, and you only have a Zarya bubble. And Gushui, because he died in the prior fight, doesn't actually have his primal online. Although, maybe he'll get it in the middle of this. Architect's engagement, though, is a big problem here, because if Architect gets right behind the rest of New York, they might still have a chance in this fight. But I think they fucked it. Actually, Gushui's gonna have primal. This could still work. Oh, Flora gets slept in the middle of his Deadeye. Still possible. Come on, Spark. If you fuck this up, you're gonna get full held. You have to win this. Alright, yeah, the primal works out. Okay, so they had one good opportunity at being able to take point A, and they converted on it. So, despite the fact that they made some mistakes, Gushui didn't feed into the amp matrix, so he's able to get up his what do you call it? Primal Rage. But here's where I don't really understand the Spark's composition. They're going to be so slow at getting through the streets phase because they're so ult dependent that New York are always going to set a better time, I think. New York can just delay them over and over again. Also, pushing into a supercharger and an amp matrix is pretty much impossible, even with Nano. Alright, they engage. They're trying to take... Okay, Gushui actually... They don't use the amp matrix to try and stop Gushui killing the supercharger, which I think is a bit of a mistake. Instead, they use it for the Deadeye, though, so that's fine. New York's ultimates are just too much there. Sherma, thank you for the 26 months. And Adam, thanks for the 15 as well. Go and Rome, appreciate the tier 2 for 18 months as well. I think I already read that out.
Either Friday or Flora, the flashbang or the shield flash. One of the two. It doesn't matter which one, because he dies anyway. He just gets found the hammered. That's not really where you want to be as Architect. Yeah, you want to be.
Okay, so now Hangzhou have used their Nano Boost, which is their primary tool to engage. Okay, they go aggressive, going for a halt and a self-destruct. They catch something with that. That's pretty good from New York. Very proactive. For how slow their composition normally is, that was a lovely little bit of proactivity. That waits. That makes Hangzhou wait a little bit. Do they wait the full time for the Nano here? Probably not. I think you probably just go with the primal. They're gonna go for a hard engage maybe with a teleport into the back. Stop zooming in, APAC observers, please. I can't see a thing. Okay, so Feather. Talk about splitting the NYXL. It's Gushui who's doing a lot of that. Shai's going to be able to utilize the Diva Bomb.
If Zen wasn't supposed to play, they would have given him footsteps.
But they've lost Flora and the Deadeye and the Dead Blossom from Architect, finding everyone in the...
Watching this makes me appreciate how much the North American observers right now are using free cam.
Also has that Death Blossom, trying to find a position.
The frantic swaps from free cam to first person here make this fight almost impossible to decipher.
Three tanks on board for the Spark. So many ultimates to work with. Shai takes a lot of damage. He gets demexed immediately, and it's Gushui who's splitting the piece. Talk about
Gushui is doing an enormous amount of work in the middle of this fight, though.
Shai's gonna be able to utilize the Diva Bomb. Doesn't find
like that is so
it's a good start for the NYXL, but they've lost
disconcerting.
and the
But here's the problem as well, is that even though the Hangzhou Spark have won this team fight, they've won both of the big team fights where they've had ultimates online, but they still only have a minute and a half coming through. And New York are going to have another opportunity to recontest here. Are they going to go for this? Okay, they're giving it up. No? Oh, they were going to give it up. No, they're not. 0.01 meters. All right, they're going for it. They're using Rally. Oh, good boop, actually, to get Feather pushed back. They forced a lot of ultimates here out of Hangzhou. Oh, New York just sustained throughout the entirety of the grab, despite the fact they don't have the Immortality Field. Bernard waits out Immortality Field, throws in the grab, and they still can't get kills through this. The rally armor is just immense. Look at the health on these guys. Jonak, Friday, Flora. They have so much rally armor on them. Guxui's got a nano boost and he just can't do anything. The only person that they get is Bianca. They demech Bianca. Yakpung's superchargers have been very easily taken care of. But I don't hate him using it in the middle of that team fight, just throwing it down.
He is, yeah, but Jonak. Oh no.
Guxui is a monster on Winston. I can understand them leaning into a composition that wants that puts a lot of resources into Guxui rather than the Winston Diva Lucio Moira comps where the Winston just kind of jumps in with Cole and doesn't really have many other tools to work with. It just isn't the best comp right now. Why no Mei in this meta? I mean, Shock did actually try and run a little bit of Mei, but Mei is just not... I mean, why would you run Mei in this meta? I mean, I don't even... What would Mei accomplish in these team compositions? Mei is very good at being able to separate Reinhardt from the rest of their team. It's very good at being able to split front lines from back lines. But when you're playing hypermobile compositions like the Moira Lucio Winston Diva, why would you run a Mei with that or against that? It doesn't... There's no synergy at all.
Spark just looking to set up for success here.
Shy needs to be careful. The fact that Shy got picked off there bought a lot of time for the NYXL to hold back the Spark. We're seeing a different rotation, though, approach from Architect, and he does have Guxui right there to help enable him. The way that you currently have this corner being controlled by the NYXL...
Look, Spark are down to 30 seconds because their comp is so slow. They haven't been playing badly. By the way, their composition is much better on attack, even though they weren't able to convert on Anubis attack. Oh, no. Guxui just pushed Feather's Death Blossom into his own team. Guxui with the assist on that Death Blossom.
I think just killed 2 people of his own team. He booped Feather with his ultimate back into the rest of his team.
Look at the scenario that Spark have set themselves up for, though. When they capture point C, they have a minute and a half on the clock. They have a minute and a half to push the entirety of point C. If you play Orisa-based comps or Winston Lucio Moira Diva, why on earth would I say the composition like that? And yet I did. If you play those kind of compositions, we're frequently seeing in North America people getting to point C with 5-minute time banks. And point C is the most difficult area of the map to push.
And that's exactly what he does. It was really unfortunate for the NYXL that Yakpung actually went down first. That's stable.
You're just not setting yourself up for success. Even though you're winning team fights, the team fights are just coming way too slowly. It's one of those annoying scenarios that Spark have set themselves up for where they couldn't have really played the composition much better. You just can't win some of those neutral fights. You don't have the tools to be able to win against some of the ults that New York have. Like when you're trying to push into a Supercharger and an Ant Matrix, you just have to kite them. You can't go toe-to-toe with them. And you don't have the same snowball potential that you do with other compositions. So you can't really say that they played it badly. I think they just made the wrong compositional choice. Why has every caster been using the expression "new lease on life"? I don't think I've ever said that phrase. I don't know. I've not noticed it either. New York are attacking with Orisa Zarya again. What was the point of this Orisa Zarya comp when they ran it on attack on Anubis? I don't know. It seemed like they wanted to give the bubbles to Feather. Or rather, it was Flora playing the Reaper at the time, but basically they want to bubble the Reaper, is what it seemed like. I don't know why.
Infinitely more damage because of the headshot potential as well, which isn't there.
Is there some specific thing where Zarya is good against the Spark's composition? I don't think so. The Zarya bubble, I guess, is decent to stop Feather getting Brig bashed, but you can't be telling me they're picking their entire off-tank role just around that interaction. Bubbling the Reaper didn't generate very much value for them on Anubis.
Which is very cool. Freddy really remembers the good old days.
Only pain.
Only pain. Only pain.
Okay, they're running Reaper Hangzhou here. So they have a slow-paced composition, again, that has a Reaper in it. So here's my problem with New York's approach in this meta. If you're running Reaper and, let's say, a Torbjorn, if you're running Reaper Torbjorn with this kind of composition, and I'm going to ignore the Zarya for a second, right? Let's pretend, okay, they're running Zarya, they're running Diva, whatever the fuck. If you're running Reaper Torb in this scenario, and you've got a really tanky composition, you can walk up, play the objective, and force the Spark onto you. You're forcing the Spark to initiate, because if they don't, you're just taking the objective, right? You're forcing it based on, there is time pressure on Hangzhou Spark. They must engage before the clock reaches 100%. And then when they do engage onto you, you have the Reaper and you have the Torbjorn to be able to do a huge amount of work into their Winston, right? That's the core principle of some of the North American teams when they've been running that composition. But this comp, they're trying to spam with Flora. If the rest of the team goes forward and just plays the objective and they get initiated onto, Flora is going to have to do a large amount of damage from an off angle to make up for that. And they're probably going to lose players because Gushui can stay in the fight longer because he's not taking damage from Feather and from, or rather from a Reaper and a Torbjorn who can get inside his shield, do damage to him, and force him out of the fight.
They would have given him footsteps.
So they've got some slow-paced components to this comp, and then they've also got some components that are trying to apply point pressure, and it seems to me like a compromise that just ends up making their comp worse. Unless Flora can pop off. And they have done a lot of damage here to Banana. So Feather's gone for another teleport up onto the high ground with the bubble, and just immediately has to leave again. Immediately has to pop Wraith form and leave. Which means that if the Spark were in a position to initiate now, which they're not because they're taking a shit ton of poke damage, but if they were, if MCD was up to his nano or something like that, they could go onto this, and Feather is a very diveable target. I know he's a Reaper with sustain and shit, but without the Wraith form, he's a 250 health person that can get blown up by another Reaper and by an Echo and that kind of stuff. But alright. How does Shy die here? He's just in the air, taking damage from Yakpung. Did Feather do damage to him there? Are they teleporting a Reaper to do damage to... I mean, this to me is madness. I know that it works, but this to me is just madness. You're teleporting a Reaper onto a high ground to kill the Echo with Reaper and Orisa spam. It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre.
Still shooting logs, man. Those hitboxes on those arrows, I swear to...
Absolutely bizarre. And IDK and MCD just don't heal him. They don't anticipate that threat at all because it is wild. Nano boost onto Banana again here just to keep him alive. He only has 27. Charge Flora. Nice kill. Flora does have to do work in this team fight, and he did. I mean, Flora did work.
Make it a 3K for Flora. The NYXL, they've gotten it together, wasting no time. 5 minutes in the time.
I mean, you just how would New York's composition work against a team that played Moira Lucio defense here and tried to play really aggressively against them? I think they die is the answer to that. Feather goes for a teleport. The rest of the people engage onto Flora or onto Friday or fuck it, onto Bianca as well. And I think they get pooed on. Now, what happens if it's a normal Orisa v Orisa comp, though? A lot of teams do still run the Orisa defense on Numbani. Dallas doesn't, though, obviously. And that's Oh, no, that's not who New York are playing against. New York are playing against Atlanta. I think Atlanta does run Orisa defenses on this, right? So if Atlanta is running a normal Orisa defense, then how does Feather get value is the main question. Because Flora can still just spam shields or look for picks, that kind of stuff. But how do you get value out of the Reaper? Maybe they wouldn't play this comp. Maybe this composition is only to be brought out against Hangzhou's composition. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't have natural synergies. I feel like NYXL versus Atlanta might be a good game. Both are mediocre and beat teams that were struggling. I'm not sure how you can look at Atlanta and say that they look mediocre, to be honest. Also, I don't think... I mean, is that just a troll? Because I don't think Shock was struggling either.
If Zen wasn't supposed to flank, they would have given him.
I mean, I don't think Shock were at their, like, peak 2019-2020 performance, but they're still one of the best teams in the league. Badal! Thank you for the 3 months. Better get this anniversary message in time during your monthly stream. Does Atlanta stay as hot when they get to Hawaii? I don't think there's any reason why not. I actually think Atlanta have probably turned over a new leaf. I keep referring back to that interview that Massa did where he said that they've changed up their practice, like thought process and structure a lot. This is why I said that Spark's comp would just not work on defense. Architect has had to move over to the Genji here because they feel like they need more tempo. This is... Spark can't engage. They don't have... They can't play the payload, otherwise they get melted. So they can't block the objective from moving forwards. And then, as the objective moves forwards, there becomes more and more time pressure for them to engage. And they can't push because they need to wait for their ultimates to be online before they go for it. And now, Architect is playing Genji. And they have no answers. This is why I said that New York's comp would be way better on Numbani. Like, the Spark are just throwing playing this on D. Feels like Sideshow is underrating New York. Dude, if New York come out and they beat Atlanta playing these same compositions, I will be amazed. I will. So, the thing with saying someone's underrating a certain team is it assumes that you know their true level, you know? And because the APAC teams haven't played against the North American teams, it's very hard to say what the true level of a team is. But I don't think I am underrating New York. New York looked shit in their previous games. Like, they looked kind of poo-poo. And then they come into this game, and I don't think they've massively improved. I think they've done some things well. There have been some team fights that they've taken quite nicely. They clearly have a better understanding of what compositions are powerful right now than Hangzhou do. Hangzhou look lost as soon as they've moved away from the comps where Shy can carry on hit scan. But I don't think New York have improved. Just by looking at their play, I don't think they've meteorically improved. So let's take a look at this composition. How does New York look when they're playing against Hangzhou playing this? So New York begin by playing a comp that's very defensive, right? They're playing the Reaper, they're playing the McCree. So they were expecting Hangzhou, I think, to come out here with a Winston-based composition. So New York's comp right now is not that great at playing the mirror. Spark definitely have the compositional advantage right now, just by virtue of running the Echo instead of the Reaper. So I could see Feather trying to make a swap if they lose a team fight here, going for the Echo, going for more long-range hit scan, for example, something like that. So how does New York adapt to this? How do they fight despite the fact that they have a compositional disadvantage? How do they get value out of Feather? So they're trying to play really fast and aggressive at the beginning. Jonak got a crazy fast amp matrix. Holy fuck, he's got a fast amp matrix. He's just turning all of this spam from Architect into amp matrix charge. Because Friday's doing no healing.
There's a lot more shield pressure on the side of the Spark, or at least long-range shield pressure, that is. Feather has to get up close and personal with the Orisa shield in order to demolish it.
Wow, Jonak has that incredibly quickly. That is a 45-second amp matrix.
Instantly opened and pushes Gushue and the rest of the Spark down to the low ground.
Well, there you go. That's pretty huge. They had one other team fight at New York on Nambani where they were really proactive with this composition, and I thought that was really good. Their ability to create their own win conditions with this comp. It was when they were defending at the beginning of Checkpoint B and they pushed deep into spawn with a halt and a self-destruct. I thought that was pretty good. Alright, so now Flora makes the move over to Ash, which is going to give him a little more ability to deal with Architect and Shy from long range on Checkpoint A, but Feather doesn't have an opportunity to change, so he's still on the Reaper.
Learn how to play around it without an echo of their own. Right now, Architect has switched over to the Echo rather than Shy, so a different style almost.
Also, that aggressive brawl allowed Friday to build up his ultimate, which was something that was lacking when you're just trying to play the long-range spam against each other. That's why a lot of people play like Mercy Bap in these scenarios. But Bat Brig is very viable as well. Oh my god. So they come around the side, Deadeye to create space, and then they just whack down an amp matrix and shred Yakpung. And Feather hasn't been able to brawl. He's still at 75% of his Death Blossom after over 2 minutes. He's not swapping? Feather's staying on Reaper. These are the kind of things that I don't understand about New York. Like, why keep the Reaper in this scenario?
Momentarily as well as that window too, so they can create so much space, forcing the rest of the Spark all the way back, and even potentially making them use Rally for this engagement.
Oh, the Diva Bomb though, charging into the back line. Luckily, they have the building right there to retreat. Jonak with the window again.
There's a window against a supercharger. The halt was a little too early there from Gushue. Oh. Alright, Bob gets absolutely melted. Rally as well from IDK. Oh my word. Feather's Death Blossom took a long time to get up, but it was huge. The supercharger was enormous there. Alright, pretty good ultimate usage from New York when they were trying to peel.
If Zen wasn't supposed to flame.
Who are the casters on the VOD? It's Jaws and Vicky. Trying not to put Jonak on Moira is still a plus to me. Yeah, I don't know how New York would look if they were playing that comp. I can't imagine it would look great.
But they're going to have a tough time against all this stacking armor that Friday provides.
Oh, Joust, they have less than 30 seconds to get this first point. The NYXL are doing so good on the defense. Very similar to what we had seen on Numbani from this team. Feather trying to find an angle. Friday has the rally to start this engagement. Yep, and there you see it. They're trying to circle around.
I do love these proactive engagements because they also allow Feather to get a little bit more value than he would normally get as well. A little bit. Infinitely more value than he would normally get because he normally gets 0 value in these long-range fights. So this proactivity is really good from New York.
Too little, too late. The Spark are going to get held on first.
Okay. They got, yeah, Jonak was building up his ults way faster. But there was way more spam damage coming through from Spark, but they couldn't actually generate that into any kind of advantage for themselves. When you have the Echo online, you could theoretically do so much more, and yet they didn't do anything. They had no plans for how to get the Echo in a good position to do damage. They had no attempt at getting them around on a flank and combining their pressure all together so that they could go in and finish off some targets with a focusing beam. They just slowly rotated around and then lost the only one ult fight that they took. You reviewing anything after this? Yeah, the Shanghai game as well, when they qualified. Yo, Onathons, thank you for the 5 months. Egg returns. Did you take a break to deal with EU not being as good at Iceland? Yeah, I've been taking a break to work on some different YouTube videos and stuff like that, and also just sort out some real life shit. because there was a bunch of stuff that I hadn't had time to do because we were doing that Valorant co-stream every day for 7 days. What if Spark pocketed their Echo with the Mercy? Yeah, if they were running Mercy Brig instead, I think they would have had a lot more success in that situation.
If Zen wasn't supposed
So New York themselves are running the Mercy Brig. Sorry, not Mercy Brig. Mercy BAP is what I meant, not Mercy Brig. Mercy Brig would be terrible. So New York were going to run Mercy themselves there. So this is what I don't really understand. Why the infatuation with playing Reaper in these kind of compositions here? Why is Spark trying to defend with Reaper? Is it just in case New York go over to playing some Winston-based composition? They feel like you need the Reaper just to stop them doing that? The defensive Reaper got almost no value apart from there were 2 team fights. One where he was just able to get a singular Death Blossom with a supercharger that was good. And then there was a fast rally engage where Feather was able to get value. Apart from that, the defensive Reaper did nothing.
You can hear the galloping.
NYXL though are just playing a real like death ball version of this comp. They're just going to stay together as much as possible. Ooh, good kill. Bob was a little late perhaps, but still allows them to clean up. You can see how little damage Architect is able to do. He's only at 40% of his ultimate, a minute and a half in.
The Spark into going high ground, but the Spark were a little bit wiser than that. They tried to go.
These are all long-range engagements. It just, I don't think it makes sense. So what's Feather gonna try and do? They have been. Wait, okay, that's weird. Bernard spotted Feather. He gets pushed out. Feather would love to be able to generate a Death Blossom so he can go for an aggressive teleport play, but you can't. I mean, you can just try and teleport into the back line as a Reaper and get behind them and coordinate a push, but it's not as good if you don't have Death Blossom. Yeah, it's just not. These teleports aren't timed as well either. They're not timed with distraction from the rest of their team. Okay, Deadeye. Ooh, 8 by Bernard. Eaten by Bernard, sorry. And that's the Amp Matrix worn out there. Good Bob. Feather went for another teleport there, but again, not synced up with the rest of his team. Architect dies, man.
You see the NYXL disengaging, going for a different rotation to actually engage right behind the Spark. For Nar taking so much damage.
Architect is just on his own inside the room. I don't understand the APAC infatuation with these defensive Reapers. This is Architect's first ultimate 3 minutes in, and he's desperately pushing into the room to try and generate some value for himself, oversteps and dies, and just throws. Why would you play Reaper here on defense with this composition?
The rally to start the engagement, and the supercharger with Gushwei gets annihilated. The immediate meltdown from Yakpong.
They're gonna do it, Vicky.
Now the NYXL, this is happening now, Joust. The Spark can't do anything. They need to touch this point. They need to stop this payload.
They're not going to be able to do it. MCD's going to go down. They're going to contest for a couple of seconds, but that's going to be it.
The NYXL,
It's going to go down. They're going to contest for a couple of seconds, but that's going to be it.
Neither Reaper got their ultimate. And I don't mean that in terms of like... It's just indicative of the amount of damage that they're doing. They're not finding opportunities to engage because their teams aren't setting them up for them. But also, on defense, you just don't want to go generally for those aggressive engages. It makes more sense to run it on attack. I don't mind it. I don't think it's the best pick that you could go for, but I don't hate it. You'll see a lot of teams run this kind of composition on attack. But on defense, it doesn't make sense to play like Ash Reaper. your composition is not looking for hard engages with the Reaper. You're not getting into effective range for them to do any damage or getting any value. You're forgetting Sombra and Reaper are gone. Reaper's probably... Sombra and Tracer are gone. Reaper's probably the next best thing at randomly getting behind to pressure the backline. But they're not ever pressuring the backline. All they're doing is they're teleporting. They're instantly taking damage, having to Wraith out. That's not pressure. That's just simply not pressure. You should just... I mean, if you want to do that, then just run Echo. Run Echo and take a Mercy with you if you want to do that kind of stuff. You can run Mercy BAP and you can get the Mercy damage boost on the Echo, and Echo is fantastic at getting in behind the rest of the team and distracting. Is the Orisa comp better than the Rush comp we've seen? It's map dependent. I think on this map, Orisa comps are better, but also people like Dallas would probably disagree with that and just beat your Orisa comp anyway. I don't think, though, that... I think it's really difficult to try and... Actually, having said that, on this map, you can get big value out of playing Winston compositions. It's just that it becomes really difficult to contest the payload as it goes through checkpoint B. Playing the Orisa comps makes everything simplified because you have people that are able to contest the payload, because the checkpoint B is really weirdly set up, right, where there's a big high ground right above it, but you need somebody to stop the objective actually moving. You can't just hold high ground and allow the cart to continue pushing below you. That doesn't make any sense, but... Here's the thing. New York might be good in the tournament, but if they are playing this same style, I don't think they will be. If New York change up massively and they end up playing a lot of... like leaning more heavily into Flora playing the McCree. I mean, I think Flora's McCree is excellent. If they lean heavily into playing, I don't even know, Echo a bit more instead of playing the Reaper on defense. If they move away from playing Orisa Zarya, I'm going to sound like such an NA simp, but if they play more North American meta shit, I think they could improve. But I think if they play like they did in this match, they should lose to Atlanta Reign. Or you should expect them to lose.